It is on occasions like this we get opportunities to gain knowledge. A very good morning to one and all gathered here. I, Rebecca Sandra, on behalf of EPCT, would like to welcome all of you for today's workshop on patenting and inventor's perspective. It is a mark of our tradition to invoke the Almighty at the beginning of every event. I now call upon Miss Arpita, second sem student, to deliver the invocation song. I kindly request the guest to take over the stage. Please, sir. Thank you, sir.
महागणपतिं महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दित महागणपतिं महादेवसुतं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं मानकोटिये प्रकाशं शान्तं महाकाव्यनाटकादिप्रियं मूषिकवाहनमोदकाप्रियं महाकाव्यनाटकादिप्रियं मूषिकवाहनमोदकाप्रियं महागणपतिं Thank you.
Thank you, Arpita. With the blessings and inspiration of our chairman, late Dr. S.M. Venkatapati sir, I extend my warm welcome to everyone. I also extend my warm welcome to Srimati B.L. Ramadevi ma'am, the chairperson of EPGI in her absentia. I also extend my warm welcome to our two dynamic CEOs of EPGI, Mr. Pramod Gowda sir and Mr. Rajiv Gowda sir in their absentia. I'm profusely elated in welcoming our Senior Vice President Sir of EPGI, Dr. Prakash S. Sir, who is a man of distinct vision. We welcome you, sir. It's an immense pleasure for me to invite the dynamic leader of EPCT, our beloved Sir Dr. Yogesh GM, for today's workshop in his absentia. I'm also honored in welcoming Dr. G.S. Mathur Sir, the R&D Director of EPGI. We welcome you, sir. I now take honor in welcoming the resource person for today's workshop, Dr. Manabai Chitte, Principal Scientist, System Engineering Division, CSIR, NAL Bengaluru. We welcome you, sir. I kindly request our Senior VP, sir, to hand over the bouquet to our chief guest. Last but not the least, I welcome all the dear participants, the faculty members, and especially the HODs of all the departments to this workshop. We welcome you. I now hand over the session to Ms. Manjula.
Good morning, everyone. I request our Senior Vice President, sir, to enlighten the gathering with his worthy words. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, students. Good morning. Today, we have not only students, we have the faculties from other colleges also. This is what, when this invitation came to me, I insisted, Mathur sir, we'll also call the people from other colleges also, not just for engineering. Because it's not very specific to engineering domain. even the people from other domains, either it could be pharmacy, we have people from nursing and even from higher education who happen to do the normal degree. It's also necessary at this era. Okay. Uh, Let me tell you certain statistics before I proceed with what is the necessity of doing this event. On behalf of East Point Family, first, profoundly, I want to thank the resource person today. Sir, we wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, for being with us. Thanks to Mathur, sir, for having you here in this campus. Uh, in terms of patents, in terms of products, we actually we are not enlightened when I come to the statistics. We are below the benchmark among the patents produced by other top countries, including US, Japan, Korea, and all other people. Yes, things have changed from then to now. I usually use this three P's. First P is paper, next P is patents, another P is products. So this three P's, always we thought that it is focused to only industry. They all come out with excellent papers, they patent it and come out with a product. So this was somewhere we dipped in, but if you go back and see another stat, the people who have actually come out with lot of innovation, they're all basically Indian born, Indian origin at different countries in US or UK. They're all scientists from India, but settled in Europe or some other country, and they have developed. So, what is the meaning? When we really explore this, it's very clear that as Indians, we inherited innovative capabilities. We are very strong innovators. Unfortunately, we never explored it, or we never put a system and process starting from the government to our education system to bring this innovative capabilities in the education system. If you go back before post India independence, if you go and see before Mughals invaded, before British invaded us, there are amazing innovation that has happened. There are a lot of mathematical models. Till today, people are not able to decode it. Okay. I always tell this, I again repeat for the people who are new for this. We invented zero, we invented binary system, we invented Fibonacci series. We were the first to predict sun correctly, 365 point something. Okay. We were the first to do the plastic surgery. Okay. Lot of Sushruta, who was the Muni. These all innovations actually we had in our, and our complete education system was actually to bring innovation on the products. Unfortunately, when Mughals invaded and spoiled, and when British invaded us, the main intention was to break the fabric of the education system. That's what we need to understand. Okay. They systematically broke the fabric of the education system. Their intention of bringing new education policy or new education system to India after they took over was complete education system was designed to produce second division clerks. This is how it's only the clerks because they wanted everyone to get to the masters. They let them be only clerks. So we will be the innovators. We will throw this. But if you go back and see the innovation that's taking place even in other countries, either it could be Israel, either it could be Japan or Korea, It's amazing innovations. We had that capability, and a lot of scientists who are actually Indian origin people now, they actually go and do remarkable innovation at different countries. People thought that we don't have research infrastructure in India to do our innovation. So my humble submission to all the people here, including students and faculties, we inherently, genetically carry innovative capabilities. You need to introspect and start innovating. It's always possible. It's not a big game. It's not a big game. Yesterday, I was there at DRDO, at LRD, and I happened to meet the director of LRD. He told that there are only 300 people who are working on radar and RF technologies among 1.4 billion population of India. And he told this stat that anybody who's working on RF or in antennas, if they've done even minimum course on this, US picks them like anything with a higher package. We don't know. So what is this stat? I was so stunned at out. Sir, only 300 numbers. And he told there is no other people. There are few companies which actually I interact and I only give the problem statement. They do this. This is the problem. Then I told, sir, Raja, education is, as the leaders, being in the leaders in the education system, how do I solve this problem? Let us come out, sir. Let us create a common platform for you people. Come and tell this. This is the crux of the problem. We never identified. All things is we only do at the top level, application level, not at the bottom level. Today we are speaking about chip manufacturing. Now, today in India, I want to put a big infrastructure for manufacturing the chips. It's a big way. I think people are speaking about this. Today, if you see in fact, another stat tells that 70% of your chip manufacturing goes actually waste. Only 30% is the yield what you get. The way the Chinese or the Taiwans have actually nurtured this manufacturing process for chips has completely transformed this, how they were able to make it a difference. So we have now, the government is thinking in a different way. My complete new education policy is also designed. They're bringing a lot of structural changes. My complete education should be also focused on bringing out the innovative capabilities of the kids. So how do I nurture the kids to become great innovators? In fact, I keep on telling this. There are 3 top IT companies who take away so much of revenue or the wealth from India. Such a billion populated company, the number of mobile users, 3 major companies, internet users. One is Google, another one is Microsoft, another one is Facebook. Today, actually, Facebook Meta has its more users of Facebook, its WhatsApp than your. Now people know about thread. What is thread? Any of my students, what is thread? There's a new hangama that's happening now. Thread from it is another product which is equivalent to Twitter. Yes. It has already made so much of millions of people have already logged in, become users because they have a huge database of WhatsApp and Facebook. It's very easy for them to actually capture. People are saying this will be the major breakthrough where Twitter was dominating. Similar product like Twitter is actually taking place through Meta, Facebook. Someone actually very long back, one of the Indian company experimented this a similar product like Twitter. Unfortunately, they are not able to commercialize this and bring it to the market. But today, Facebook is doing in such a big way, it will revolutionize. Okay. So, to conclude, anyway, today we have the guest who is actually take you to the complete process of patenting, innovating, and all these things. I'm not the right person to speak. But what I insist all the faculties and the students here is that definitely it is easy to do patenting. It's not a very big challenge. Okay, and India needs lot of innovative products. Many products that work in Europe or US may not work for India. Indian culture is different, Indian environment is different. There are a lot of problem statements, lot of products can be developed for Indian society, for Indian culture, for Indian people. We need to actually customize our innovative processes exclusively for Indian people. Many products. I just tell this and conclude. Two, three things have really changed India. How many people know about FASTag? Everyone will go on national highway. Okay, you know one statistics there. FASTag, it is not a new technology. It is already there in US. And when India want to implement it, people thought that in India it doesn't work because automatically when the bar will not lift and it's very difficult. In India it doesn't work. And today, the success story is spoken elsewhere, and this is a business model spoken at different IIMs. Today, 120 crores, approximately 120 crores get collected each and every day only through FASTag. That's the reason the revenue that collected, so much of roads are built by Gadkari today. See the innovation, how the technology intervention happens. Another one big change that happened. I want to tell you how the products made a difference. How many people know about UPI? Raise hands. We should proudly tell wherever you go, even 1 rupee I make a transaction. What it made a difference? In fact, this is a blessing. COVID was a blessing for UPI. When UPI, please do assume that this is not a technology developed in Europe. This is a technology indigenously developed by India. I don't know how many people know that there is something called as virtual ID. When you transfer, the another person can't know what is your account number, what is your. It is encapsulated there. It's called as virtual ID. Today, it really hit two big people. One is Visa, another one is Mastercard. Okay. Before COVID, when this technology is invented, people are not ready to actually use UPI. After COVID, people started using it. Today, it's a revolution. US, Europe wants to use this technology. Mark, Facebook CEO, writes to Joe Biden telling that kindly adopt this technology for US. That means this business model really made a difference. And two companies are badly hit today. This is what today now UPI is being promoted in France when Modi went and told us. Today UPI will be used instead of dollars at Dubai. See, that means we have amazing products to make it up. I'll conclude with last one product what we very proudly say in terms of healthcare. People know about COVID. COVID, when your vaccination was happening, okay, there was a digital certificate that come. It was amazing to see that the complete supply chain management was completely automated and digital certifications was issued for all people who got vaccinated. Okay, this is a successful story which we have created. So we do have capabilities where we can bring lot of differences. So let us start thinking from that per se. We do have capabilities. Let us start focusing on 3 P's. First P is paper. Second P is patents. Third P is products. So let us not just restrict our always focus in academia only for first 2 P's. We should also see that come up with products which benefits the market. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for giving your valuable insights on patenting and inventions. I now request Dr. J.S. Mathur, sir, R&D Director, PPJI, to take over the gathering.
Welcome to all who have come for this talk. I'm extremely happy to welcome Dr. Manvendra Dey, whom I call Manav, to this talk. And as the senior VP just said, the three Ps, his talk is going to cover all three of them because he did his PhD and got papers. And while doing his research, he got an innovative idea for a product, a flapping wing micro air vehicle, with a difference from what is conventionally done, and that resulted in a patent. Patent was filed jointly between CSIR and IIT Madras because he had registered under NAL, CSIR NAL's external registration scheme to do a PhD at IIT Madras. So those two institutions are the ones which hold the patent, or which will hold the patent, and he, as the scholar, and his two guides, one from IIT Madras, and I was his guide in NAL. So the three of us are the inventors. So I just called him because this is work where it did not start with the idea of doing a patent and a product. It was a problem in computational fluid dynamics. That was his research topic. While doing the work, he got this idea, innovative idea, which eventually led to patent filing. So we have to change the way we think. We don't always start with a product in mind, but somewhere doing our research, we can think up of something which could become a product which is innovative. You have to do a lot of background research to see that what you are thinking of is not been done before. But if it is something new, then I would encourage everyone to think in terms of a patent immediately. It's not something that is not for us, it's beyond us, something that everyone can do, so you should think in this direction. So with these few words, I will request our guest to deliver his lecture. I hope all of you find it interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable information. I now request Professor Ravi Kumar to introduce our keynote speaker for the day, Dr. Manindra Kumar Dey. Over to you, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Good morning, all. It's a great honor in introducing Dr. Manibendra M. Dey. Dr. Manibendra M. Dey holds a BE degree in mechanical engineering from South Gujarat University, MTech degree with specialization in turbo machines from Sardar Vallabhbhai National Institute of Technology, Surat, Gujarat, postgraduate diploma in intellectual property rights from IGNOU and WIPO, and PhD degree in applied mechanics, computational fluid dynamics from IIT Madras. He joined CSIR NAL in 2006 as junior scientist in wind energy division. At present, he is serving as principal scientist in system engineering division. His research areas include wind turbines and wind solar hybrid systems, computational fluid dynamics, systems engineering of flapping wing micro aerial vehicle and fixed wing aircrafts, and also quality control aspects of composite fabrication and AS 9100 certification. He serves as a subject expert in various international and national committees. Few of them are the Wind Energy Generation Systems, Part 5, Wind Turbine Blades, International Electrotechnical Commission, IEC, Geneva, Switzerland, Wind Turbine Sectional Committee, Electrotechnical Department, Bureau of Indian Standards, Government of India. And it's also advisory committee, the Mechanical Engineering Department, Sardar Vallabhbhai National Institute of Technology, Gujarat. He also offers service as reviewers for many peer-reviewed international journals like American Journal of Aerospace Engineering and conferences like GT India 2021, GT 2023, and ASFD 2023. He is a life member of international and national professional societies like ISAMP, SCSI, ISTAM, ISWE, ISAM, and IAENG. He has over 30 publications in national and international journals and conferences. He has filed two patents in India. He has supervised theses of more than 15 MTech B and diploma students. He has served as examiner of MTech thesis of prestigious engineering institutions across India. He has delivered invited talks at faculty development programs, workshops, and seminars organized by engineering colleges pan India. So we welcome you, sir. It's a great honor in introducing you. So I now request the keynote speaker to take this.
Good afternoon. We are running a little late in our schedule. Am I audible to the last row? Generally, it is said that many of the best talents of a nation can be found on the last rows. It's not that the first row and the intermediate rows are passing time, but the perception is like that. So I just wanted to have my outreach to the last member sitting. Of course, I apologize for the font sizes that you may be seeing in the slide because I didn't have an idea about the hall. So I would probably, as and when required, I'll read it out and then probably face you all. So generally, the first slide which I put is blank because ideally this is the state of your mind in which we would like you to be. Because if your mind is already filled with thoughts and ideas and processes and all, whatever we say doesn't really get into the brains and then to the heart. So ideally, this is the state in which your mind should be there. I would like to, since the audience is a heterogeneous mixture, it's a challenge for the speaker. Because if it's only engineering faculty, then it's a different ball game. If it is only medical, if it is only nursing, it's a different ball game. But when you have to address a bouquet of audience, it's very difficult to handle. So more than you, the pressure is on me. So if there are any errors which I do during the presentation, please I ask for your apologies. So yeah, we are basically celebrating the National Intellectual Property Festival in this month, and that is the reason why you would have seen my senior colleague, Dr. Vasan. He had visited the college and he delivered a speech he took a session on the intellectual property rights. Basically, his perspective would have been more as a subject expert. So, as a subject expert, his views he would have shared with you, his thoughts he would have shared with you all. And today, what we are trying to see is from an inventor's perspective, what is actually intellectual property right? We have been seeing this quite, hearing about these buzzwords. So, from an inventor's point of view, what do you know or what do you think about the intellectual property right? That is what we will try to cover in today's, discussion. Just before we actually start, let us be a little interactive. So, I would request if anyone in the audience can identify these three personalities. Yeah, louder. Yeah, Neil Armstrong. Excellent. The two other gentlemen, one who looks like Einstein. Looks like Einstein. Uh, no, not Edison. Yeah, Mark Twain. So, if you, so that's what I meant when the best, talents are sitting in the last row. So the right answer has come from the last row. So if you translate your memories in the past, in your school days, somewhere in your English literature, you would have come across the adventures of Tom Sawyer and his friend Huckleberry Finn. Even I remember those days when I was in the school and we used to read this. The second picture was of Ian Donald, and he was the one who, for the first time, used the ultrasound scanner for a medical application. Previous to that, it was primarily used in the industrial setups, but he was the one who used it for the medical application. And of course, Neil Armstrong, Chandrayaan 3 is very, very hot topic of discussion today. We are anxiously waiting in August whether India will become the first nation to land on the south pole of moon. There are three nations who have already landed on moon, but they have not still reached the south pole, which is quite mysterious to human race even today. So we are anxiously awaiting that golden moment where the land rover will be landing there. So yeah, definitely, I am sure many of you will be confused. Like we are here to listen to intellectual property rights and inventor's perspective, and why the hell we are being asked some visual questions like this. How many of you have seen this movie Kung Fu Panda? Good. So there's a famous quotation in that. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift, so that's why we call it the present. So 21st July, today's day, on different years in the history are important. The Adventure of Tom Sawyer was copyrighted in 1875 on 21st July. The first investigation using the ultrasound was again on the same date, 21st July 1955, and the first foot of human being on moon was again on 21st of July 1969. So 21st of July, today's date, is very important, and let us all appreciate, and I am also thankful that the same day I am also given an opportunity to gather this heterogeneous composition of audience and enlighten or maybe share my thoughts. I would not say I'm not still reached that stage where I can advise you or uh, 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 give some other such teachings. But yeah, I am also a student like you. Probably somewhere I'm sitting in the middle rows, I would guess. So an inventor's perspective is what we are trying to share our thoughts today. So today's journey will be like this. We'll just go through a research journey which I underwent when I was doing my doctoral studies. And while doing that, there was an eureka moment when we suddenly realized that apart from doing the conventional research, we are actually having something which is different. And then that led to some brainstormings with my thesis supervisor and the institutes, and that was followed by the patenting journey. Okay, so how then from a thought or a an incident, how the research underwent lot of churning of mind, and then it went into some sort of a document which could prove that there's something which is tangible out of the research thoughts which have emerged. And then there's something which we would like to share on the patenting from Indian context. So actually, if you see the journey today, it's not purely technical, it's not purely theoretical, or it's not purely policy, it's not purely administration. It's a mixed bag of certain thoughts which I thought today as an inventor I should put forth in front of you for discussion. There is no advising, there is no queries, not like that. So let us begin the journey today. So it all started with a dream. So a great visionary has said that you should have dreams, because dreams turn into thoughts and thoughts turn into action and then into reality. There is one more saying also on dreams: you should also have your own dream. Otherwise, someone else will hire you to fulfill their dreams. Most of the time, we get into that chakra. Okay, 25 lakhs per annum, 50 lakhs per annum. That's it. So we are satisfied with that without realizing that some other fellow who has a bigger dream, because your dream was 50 lakhs per annum. That's all. That's my dream. But that other guy who will be hiring you for that 50 lakh, he has a bigger dream. So you will be, working hard. That 50 lakhs, you would be churning out 100 lakhs worth of work from you, and then his dreams he will fulfill. So always one should have a dream in life. Of course, this dream came from my father. I mean, he also wanted to do his PhD, but because of the family condition, he could not complete his PhD. So I took that as a challenge and a dream that one day I will do PhD and fulfill his dream. Fortunately, he was there to see it. Unfortunately, this lecture, which was supposed to happen on 15 June, did not happen because he passed away on 14 June. So I apologize that we could not have this talk 1 month back. But notwithstanding that, I am happy that whatever he wanted to see in life, he has seen. And even we are happy that his passing away was a very peaceful event in our life. We are still trying to recover from that. Probably time will heal the sorrow. And then with this dream, the groundworks started somewhere in 2012, because I had joined CSIR NL in 2006, and we had lot of administrative rules if you want to pursue higher education. So I had joined with my MTech degree, and then we had to wait for a long time. So it was in 2012 when I first met my academic guide at IISc, Professor Venkatesan. He had come over there to deliver a talk at CFP symposium. So that was my first meeting, and that triggered a series of communication between me and him, trying to formulate what could be a research problem. And apart from that, since I was in CSIR, we have a norm that apart from the academic guide, we should also have an industrial guide. So luckily for me, Mathur sir, who was heading the computational fluid dynamics division at that time, was also the head of knowledge and technology management division, and that was in Kodihalli campus. For some of you who may not be knowing about NAL's campuses, we have two campuses. One in Kodihalli, which is opposite to Manipal Hospital, and there's one more in Belur campus, which is behind the HAL airport. So while here, this computational theoretical fluid dynamics division was in Belur, because of his headship or his leadership at KTMD, he was sitting in Kodihalli, and I was also in Kodihalli. So that helped me to approach him with a request to be my industrial guide, and that's how all these things happened during these 2 years, from 2012 to 2014. And then 2014, I registered for my PhD at IIT Madras, Chennai. And it was like sitting with guys with who are much younger than you, so maybe 10 years or so. So I still remember when I was about to go for the classes. So Mathur sir advised me that because of your age, you may fall asleep when the lectures are being taken. So he gave a very nice tip. He said that you have a notepad with you, and whatever the lecturer says, you start writing that. So there are two advantages of that. One is you will not fall asleep, and second is whatever is taught in the college or class, you will capture. So later somewhere at the end semester exam or whenever it is required, you will have something which will help you to recollect what happened in the class. So that was a very good advice, and I think for that one full semester, what I was there with my young colleagues, like you are sitting in the middle rows. So this advice was very useful. So then the journey went, and we underwent all these ups and downs in the PhD journey. And finally, I graduated in the COVID batch. They call it COVID batch 2020 because that was the time when we were all haunted with the COVID and the Corona, and everything was like standstill. So that was the time when I graduated, and of course there were certain advantages of that also. I mean, while we had a very tough time, even at a personal level, my mother was, it was just about that, she may leave us forever, but somehow she managed to come back. So this was the time when it was not very, very, comfortable for all the people, not just India, across the globe. But still, there were some positive aspects, like Sir was mentioning, the COVID had given us a lot of opportunities. So good part was like both my thesis examiners, one from US and one from IIT Kanpur, were able to attend my thesis defense. And this also gave us a lot of introspection, time for introspection, because the seeds of patenting were sown during this period, 2019, 2020, which you will see in our next subsequent slides. So this is how the research journey went through. So basically, I would just like to share some highlights of the journey. So it was basically on understanding how the flow across a flapping wing occurs in nature, and then if there is a disturbance in the surrounding, then how does these forces which are generated by the flapping wings get affected? So basically, if you see natural flyers, birds, or the insects around us, they use the flapping wings for becoming airborne. So we were trying to understand that. See, for example, you take this room. For example, it's a still. I mean, there is no airflow. Now, if you switch on the fan, there is a certain disturbance that will get generated in the room. You will get a airflow hitting you. Now, if you change the regulator, then again the flow will change. If you do it continuously, it will be again changing the environment in which we are sitting. So if such thing happens when you go outside, now this is a very controlled condition. If you go outside, you stand on the road, you will continuously feel that unsteadiness or the change in the environment around you in the form of the breeze. Sometimes you'll have a strong breeze, sometimes you'll have a calmness, sometimes suddenly there will be a breeze coming. Adding fuel to fire, rains may start. So these are all disturbances in which the natural flyers efficiently work. So we're trying to understand what is that physics, that is what is the physical principle underlying such an efficient flight of these natural flyers. So that was what was the summary of the research work that we were trying to do, and it was purely computational. So there was no experiment involved. We were totally trying to apply the basic physics, the conservation of mass, conservation of momentum. Conservation of energy is not involved here because we are not talking about the temperature differences, even though in the real world scenario temperature differences do exist. But this was what we were trying to do numerically. So just to elaborate what you mean by flapping, the kinematics itself, this is a simple flapping. So where it's just a motion like this. It's the most elementary flapping movement that you can find in nature. It's just that the wing is moving up and down. Second thing is pitching as well as moving. So it is still moving up and down, but this time it's also pitching. The wing is also pitching. The third most complicated thing that you can find in nature is pitching, flapping, and sweeping. If you observe these swimmers, you will find a similar way in which they swim. It will be a figure of 8, which is well known for the hummingbird or for a dragonfly in nature. So these are the kind of kinematics when you come across these literatures on flapping wings aerodynamics when you study such things. So just to elaborate visually what exactly does flapping, pitching, and sweeping means, I just wanted to demonstrate that. And of course, as I told that the PhD journey is always a roller coaster. Like the first advice that was given to us by a faculty in research methodology was when you start PhD, don't directly start reading the thesis, because you will. One thing is you will start feeling an inferiority complex. Other thing is you will start feeling that nothing is worth researching, because so much things they would have put in the literature survey section that you will feel that this is not worth pursuing or that is not worth pursuing. In fact, I even came across such comments from the students or the scholars themselves who are doing masters, and even the faculties were telling that the student will come 1 week and he will say he'll work on this case, is this research problem. After doing the literature survey, the next week he comes and says, sir, already this work has been carried out, so I want to do something else. So he will define another problem. After 2 weeks, another problem will come out, and the student will say, no, I think what I was thinking last week was not worth pursuing, so I will now pursue this. So it's very important for you not to start read the thesis in the instance and get into problems. So it's like a roller coaster. You will have lots of problems, lots of frustrations will come. Things are not moving, and that's where you keep on searching for companions in the campus. Unfortunately, for a candidate like me, who is already at the age of something like 30 and who is an external candidate, we don't have companions even in our institute sometimes. So then it becomes very difficult. But fortunate for me, some of the students from BMS college and all were there as my batchmates in MS. So we could share how much frustrating it is, to do one simulation, and then you're trying to write some program, some coding, and then it's always getting into some redundancy, some errors are happening. So how to solve that? Those sleepless nights, and then those time in the cafeteria. So all those things were there. So that is one part of it, the lifestyle. The other part is the technical side. So this is what actually happened. So we initially thought of using some open source platforms for doing the simulations. But eventually, when things were not churning, that is where the role of a guide comes into picture. There are different kinds of guides when you come to an academic circle. So one of them will always, I'm just describing one of the kinds who will allow you to do the work and then probably allow you to fail. But at that time, when you come back in reporting your failure, he will show you a direction, or he may at least give you an indication that okay, this is not working, why don't you try out that. So that happened at some instance, and then we changed our perception or our approach totally into a commercial code which I had previously exposure to, and then again things started moving. So there was a movement again. So all these things happened between 2014 and 2020. A lot of roller coaster rides, then lot of these rejections in our conferences or even the journals, which are more predominantly faced by an academic person. But still, I mean, my guide was very cool, both academia as well as Mathur said. So that helped me a lot to get less frustrated. Of course, it's a part and parcel of our life, so it has to happen there. So finally, with that, we had some some innovative techniques that had to be used. So just I am demonstrating some of them. Like this is what is called as a dynamic machine. So we are talking about a moving body. So you need to have such algorithms which can handle such simulation. So this is just an example of a cylinder going up and down. And dynamic machine is what you can see, the patterns which are forming. They are regrading and all. So those things are happening. So the next slide will also show you certain kinematics that we were talking about, how that technique was then used for the actual problem. Like we are talking about flapping wing. So the cross section is moving. This is a 2D kind of simulation which we did, and you can see how the wings are moving up and down without breaking the domain or the grid which is being used for the simulation. So the other thing what we were having in mind is to understand how the gust or a sudden disturbance affects the forces that get generated during the flapping. So when you actually see the nature, it's highly complicated. In fact, gust is more of a probabilistic in nature rather than deterministic. So that is the reason we start with a very simplified definition of a condition or a wind. Or I was just telling that you switch on the fan and you get almost a streamline or a steady state flow hitting you. So that is nothing but expressed with the first equation, U is equal to U naught. Now, if you slightly change the regulator, you will find that it has increased. So the second and the third equation, which we are talking about, the step changes. Either it can be a sudden change or it can be a ramp change. So those mathematically, that is what they are expressed in terms of like this. So finally, what we did is we had an expression of the inflow, which is varying in time, which is varying in space, and which is also having a non-zero average. So with that conditions, we started understanding how the flapping wings will behave with different kinematics. In the 3D simulations, we also varied the plan form and tried to understand what is happening. Is there any effect of the shape? Because if you see a dragonfly, you might have seen a lot of dragonflies flying in your campuses, and many of them, after some days, you may find they are dead and they are lying down. If you observe their wing, there is a specific shape in which it is there. It's not some very high tech or very aristocratic shape that is there. It's a very crude shape, but that is how the nature has evolved. So that way, we have to also understand if there is any bearing of the shape. So those things also we did in our studies. Some of the simulation resulting, for example, when the wing is moving up and down, and when there is no airflow, then how do these, the flow, what is the way in which the flow occurs when the wing is moving up, when the wing is moving down? Of course, these things we cannot see because air is visible. Experimentally, if you want to capture them, you will have to do smoke flow visualization. Numerically, we plot what is called as the vorticity contours or Q criteria. Based on such flow visualization techniques, we do that. So if you see the vortex patterns are just flowing down because there is no inflow. The moment there is a flow given to the area where we are studying, you can see that these vortex formations they are actually getting shaded away. And if you add more uncertainties or more disturbances, the pattern itself changes. So this is what we were trying to understand what exactly is happening, at what stage there will be a problem when the disturbances to what level, if it changes, it will affect the force patterns generated by the wings. So those things we are trying to understand. So finally, the outcome was we had 3 journal publication in SCI journal, 1 publication in a non-SCI journal, 3 conference papers in international forum, 4 in national conferences, 3 book chapters, and of course the PhD degree. And one of the good part about the corona was during that time the IIT Madras convocation happened virtually, so we were all asked to get the certificate from our parents, and that video was shown during the convocation. So you can see my father sitting behind, and mother, he had paralysis from 2009, so he could not stand. So he was sitting, and mother and father both jointly giving the degree. So this was another plus. I mean, what I would say a positive aspect of Corona, in spite of the global havoc it created. So this is one of the papers which we published. That was the first publication in Sadhana that we got. This was on the recurrent studies of insect size flapping wings subjected to a gust. Now, at this point, we had actually thought that the journey is over. In fact, it has also happened in my life, and I'm sure in your life also. These things you would have in some stage, experienced. That just when you thought that what you started with has been achieved, something new pops up. Okay, if I give my own example, I was doing my master's project work here in NAI, Bangalore itself, in propulsion division in the Belur campus. So, my family background, if you see, almost everybody is from academia. Like, my mother is a school teacher, father was a lecturer in college, B.Ed college, and even my cousins, they are all in science college, or they are a school teacher and all. So our thought was, it was like, okay, I'll do my masters, then I'll go back to college, finish my PhD, and by the time I'll try to get an ad hoc appointment as a faculty over there, then finish my PhD, then see, no, then probably depend upon which direction we go. So with that mindset, when I was at the verge of completing my MTech project work over here, the advertisement for a scientist came over here in NAL. And then it was like, okay, anyhow, I have to appear for, the faculty interviews, and also let me take this as a, net practice. So I just appeared for the interview for the written test. I got, cleared. Then I went for the oral discussion, and finally, to my surprise, I was appointed as a scientist in India. So, just at that verge of, I mean, it just happened within about 1 or 2 weeks time, when, I was about to leave Bangalore forever. And now the situation is, I have an Aadhaar card which says that I am a resident of Bangalore. So this is how life, many times it gives you such surprises. Good ones, bad ones also. So, like that, here also, when we were at the verge of, like, the thesis has been submitted, I have defended my thesis, and, I was told that, okay, we are all accepting your research work, and you are now, from today, you are from Mr. Manavendra, you are Dr. Manavendra. During that time, something very, serious, I would not say a very, triggering thing happened, but it was something suddenly that all three of us got a mail. I would not disclose the sender of the mail. So that was citing this first paper that we had published. And then it was trying to tell us that, you see, if you have a publication, these are the, the plus points that you have. But if you have a publication, if you have a patent, how does that, affect the impact, what your work that you have done, your research that you have done, that, you know that is different. For example, if you see over here, see, name and recognition, yes, both of them will give you, whether it is a patent or whether it is a journal publication. Target audience, basically, if it's a paper, it's only a research community. Whereas when you go to patent, it's research community, industry, and always government also, sometimes. The protection scope, you publish something in journal, some other person reads that and he can easily copy it. And other than copyright, you don't have any other way if it is commercialized. So then if you have a patent, then what happens is you also get that, protection on your work. It is your brainchild, which you have, which has taken time, and it has culminated into something which can be shared with the outer world, which can impact the society. That if you have to protect, then patent frameworks or the IP frameworks one needs to be, resorting to. Government sponsored fundings, definitely if you have a publication or a patent, it may not really, matter much. But when you talk about industry sponsored projects, this is what now is becoming more and more rigorous. How many sponsored projects you can bring? The faculties especially. So now my focus has shifted from students to faculties. The criteria in the academics is very, very cutthroat. In fact, 20 years back, the ease, or the perception of working in academia was something else. Today it's under a heavy pressure. I can imagine the pressure under which all of you are working. One side, syllabus, events, the online courses, and then apart from that, the outreach programs that you have to suddenly, go and, try to do. So there's a multiple, role that the faculty, gets under. So even for the students, it's important to, for you to appreciate your faculties, because they are not just teaching you, they are also working under various professional pressure. I'm not talking about the personal pressure. If you add to that, it's a havoc. Okay, it's nothing worse than that. It's nothing worse than the cyclones, which the faculties are facing today. So one of the criterias which sometimes get into the assessment of a faculty is how many industry projects you are able to back. So for that also, if there is a publication, yes, but industry is more oriented towards the final product, something tangible. So it will appreciate you more if you have a patent. It's just a thought process. And then also the licensing opportunities. Of course, we are talking from getting a product, and then instead of we trying to make it, you sell the technology or you give the license to the ones who have the capability of realizing that and you know taking it to the end user. So from that point of view, also a publication may or may not help to that extent as much as a patent would be, because you would have started putting the engineering into that. Now, when I say engineering, I'm not shunning out medical faculties, I'm not shunning out the nursing faculties. In fact, while I was preparing for the talk, I was just doing some background study. Kasturba Gandhi Nursing College in Pondicherry. If you just give a Google search, Kasturba Gandhi Medical College plus patent, they have a specific page in nursing faculties who have filed patents. So it's not just the the what we say the property of engineers to file patents. We are talking about the nursing. We are talking about the medical professionals. We are also talking about the educationalists. There are various forms of IP. We only know about patent, but there are also copyrights. There are trademarks. So it's not just that patent is the only last word in intellectual property. So for an educationist, if you come out with a new methodology of teaching, or you come out with a new way of implementing a process or something like that, you can also always copyright it. That becomes your IP. So when you start thinking on those lines, the entire perception changes. Setting up of startup companies. Now I was talking about assessment of the faculties in academic section. There was one time when they were just based on their publications. Then a time came when they started judging them based on the patents. Then they started seeing how many projects they have back, sponsored projects or DST based projects. At one stage, when all of them saturated, then they started asking how many startups have you incubated in your college based on your research work. So that became another yardsticks for the faculty. I don't know whether this statement is becoming counterproductive for the faculties and productive for the management, because I should not be giving these ideas to you, but this is a reality. This is a reality. I mean, you might not be exposed it today, but at some stage of your career, you will find this question that how many this startups have you incubated. The startup incubation centers have been set up in academic colleges to nurture. Atal Incubation Center. These are the frameworks where government is also trying to encourage. Because if you remember, either you have a dream and work towards that, or you get sold by somebody who will hire you to achieve his or her dreams. So the thought process behind a startup or incubation center is, if you have a dream, if you have passion for something, and you have during your research period, if you have found out something which is useful to the society at a grassroots level, why don't you yourself become the owner of that, make it, and then increase its outreach? So that is only possible when you have something like an IP protection for your idea. So there your publications may work, may not work, but always there is a desirable thing that IP is always desirable for such things. And research career aspect, of course, this is linked to academia. But if you have, patents, you can also think that after one stage in your career in academia, if you want to shift to industry. So if you have patents, then the probability that you may, be able to switch over from academia to industry, and which has happened. For example, IIT professors, after some time, they have become directors of CSIR labs, research institutes. So that happens, and the likelihood of that or your claim becomes more strong if you have few patents also in your seat. So from that point of view, this mail was a really big eye opener for all of us, all three of us. Another thing is probably that I will talk in the last slide, that you should never, take anything for granted. So one way of looking at this mail was just, already my PhD is done. Why the hell should we, waste our time in putting more effort for something which we really don't know? Because at that time it was very, very, difficult for us to, think, because that was a time 1920 Corona, lot of restriction. You can't go out. You have to just, be at your home and somehow try to manage things going forward. So, but then we did not do it that way. So what happened was this triggered a discussion between myself and Mathur sir, and Professor Venkatesan was my academic guide. So then we started probing into depth. What is it that we have? We only have a thought. The thoughts cannot be patented. So it has to be something physical. So what are the different ways? What are the different, frameworks when we say IP? IP is a ocean. So you have, as I was telling, you have patents, you have copyrights, you have trademarks, and each of them have their own, individual applicability, individual duration for which they are, applicable, or they will give the IP protection, and also the contents. For example, if we talk about an algorithm which you have developed, we would rather like to go with a copyright rather than a patent, because probably patent may not be possible. If you have come out with a brand name for a product, you can always go trademark or registered trademark, RVCR, many times in many of these, like ANSYS or Fluent, some, softwares like that, you will see certain trademarks happening. So that was one thing. Other thing is now, okay, having understood the differences between what are the frameworks under the IP, now we say that, okay, this is something which has to do with engineering, so we will go for a patent. The next question is, what can be patented? So again, there the descriptions are very, very stringent. Indian Patent Act 1970, it defines what can be, patented, what cannot be patented, what is the criteria for any invention to get patented. So basically, we are talking about novelty. The thing should be novel. It should not be very, very trivial, which you come across in everyday's life. It should have an inventiveness in it. So it should be not something which somebody who is having a domain knowledge, with some more thought process, he can also make the same thing. That should not be the case over here. Inventiveness. Industrial application. Finally, it has to become tangible, and it has to be a physical entity which can be felt and which you can, use for, accomplishing some purpose. So in real world condition, what is it that we can do with such a physical entity is also important. Apart from that, Section 3 and Section 4 of the Indian Patent Act 1970. So Section 3 again has another 15 subsections, which tells you what all you cannot patent. Okay, and Section 4 is all related with the atomic energy. So anything which is related to atomic energy, that also one needs to be very careful when we are thinking about patenting. So all these brainstorming things have started happening. So first thing we thought was whether there was something novel in the thing that we did. So this was more of an academic exercise where we again did some sort of brainstorming and literature surveillance, then found out in whatever we were telling, like by using the elementary movements of the flapping wings, we can actually fly. That was one thing which we found out, and also there was some degree of freedoms that we could eliminate with our thought process. So that was something which found were innovative. And then it came to a stage where then we approached the ICSR of IIT Madras. So they are the the department which takes care of the intellectual property rights. So when some researcher, scholar, or a faculty or professor, they get some idea and they think that it is patentable, then they approach this department, and they would in turn give a patent disclosure, invention disclosure form. Now from institute to institute, it may vary. So this is what I am showing you is of IIT Madras. If you Google out the same term, invention disclosure form, you will get from Amity University, they have a different format. VIT Vellore has a different format. So this is, but the gist of this form is to capture your thought into something, a kind of a document. which can then be discussed, because until it is a thought you cannot go and discuss with anybody. It is always a thought, something a castle built in air. If you have to ask somebody or to discuss somebody, then you need to put it down into writing. So this sort of a form that will help you to actually, put your thoughts in words. So there will be different sections of that, and it does not just talk about your invention. It also goes to the commercialization aspect. Okay, you think that you have an innovative idea and you can turn it out into a practical solution, but can you sell it? Because these are the questions that one need to answer before you actually go for patent. Because there will be a lot of efforts that you will see in the subsequent slides, which you need to put for patenting. So this is, the commercial aspect of that. Even after you have this, how are you going to sell it? Are you going to license it, or are you going to make it yourself? All those kind of, aspects are captured here. And the most important thing is the patent landscaping, because when you have to prove something that this is something innovative, we should also see, like literature survey we do when we are defining our problem statement for a research problem. When you are going for patenting, you do a patent landscaping. So that is also in some of these invention disclosure forms they ask, so that the moment you are checked with all these criteria, you can also ascertain that yes, there is something which is patentable and you can go ahead with that. So when this happened, we had to do the patent landscaping. Now again, patent landscaping is a big, ocean where it helps you to understand the state of art of the inventions that are happening, and then developing the sustainable models for that, helping to understand the correlation between that and the actual application, and many such things. So again, this was something very difficult, and that's why the degree in IPR came to my rescue, because at some stage after joining NAL, I thought that awareness about the intellectual property is also important. So I just enrolled for this postgraduate diploma in intellectual property rights through distance learning mode while I was working in NAL, and I finished it in 2010. That gave me some idea about what exactly is IP, because again I had to read the books, I had to write the exam. So somehow we had to read through this text, even though they sound that time very boring. Now we are realizing the merit of that, because at this stage it helped us to do the patent landscaping properly. So the result of that was, when we went through different search engines for patents, we found that from the Google patent there was something like 17 patents which were similar to what we were thinking. When it came to European space, eSpaceNet, there were something like 5 patents. WPO, around 4 patents. And US Patent Office, around 2 patents. We found that they were all similar to what we were thinking. So with that, what conclusion we came out was, while this is something innovative, but it needs little bit more in-depth professional, assessment. So with this submission, we approached the ICSR cell of IIT Madras, and they in turn hired a patent attorney, to whom this patent disclosure, this invention disclosure form was given, and then he in turn started doing the patent landscaping in his way. So this was the report that he gave. So there were some 4 patents that they audited, and they shared with us, and they said that you have to distinguish between your invention and the ones which we have listed. So I won't go in depth of that. So it was a very elaborate document where for each of them we had to give a explanation that how that patent is different from what we are talking. So these all things were captured in the patent landscaping by the patent attorney. Where it helped later was at the last stage of patenting, where you get the first examination report, because there also the patent attorney, now it is while in the filing process, the patent attorney will ask you questions that these are the patents which are similar to your claim. So how do you distinguish your claim from them? So this work at this stage helped us to answer at later stage, maybe 1 year down the line when we had to actually answer the patent office. This effort had helped us a lot. So like this, there were a lot of queries, by the patent attorney about what about this aspect, on this patent, how is it varying, how is it different from that. So with all these things, finally, this triggered the actual patent journey. So up to now, it was more of a eureka moment, like we are discovering that yeah, something we have built which is worth going forward for IP protection. But then the actual journey started after that. And the problems that were there were, as sir already mentioned, I work in CSIR in AL, and I was pursuing my PhD in IIT Madras. So there are two different entities. They have their own policies for IP protection. So we had to understand these nitty-gritties. Okay. And then comes the conventional way of drafting the patent, then filing it, getting it. The patent office publishes it after you give a request, and then the first examination report comes, and then finally, at this moment, we are still waiting for the verdict because we have already submitted our, the responses to the first examination report. So basically, what I was telling you was this. So the challenge of bringing two different institutes together itself, it took something like 3 to 4 months because they had their own policies about IP protections. The stakeholders were sitting one in Chennai, one in New Delhi, because CSIR headquarters in New Delhi, so we had to coordinate with their cells, and then finally, bring both of them on board and then move forward. So this is how the journey went in bridging those gaps between two institutes. Probably, if you are thinking from your institute point of view, it may be relatively easier. As a faculty, you need not worry about this headache. Students, it may be relatively easy because you're in the college, so you just follow the policy, IP policies of your college, and then go forward. But it was not the case with us. So we had to bridge these gaps before we could actually start working on the document. So this was the thing. Fortunately, everything was taken care, and then we could finally, bring the stakeholders together, including a patent attorney who would actually be nominated by IIT Madras as well as CSIR, and who will be filing the patent on behalf of us. So this is one of the models which is adopted in academia. So instead of you, the faculty is running around and trying to find what are the forms to be filled and what is the procedure and all, you hire a patent attorney. But of course, that has a financial implication. So again, it's a policy decision for the top management whether to go that route or whether to load the faculty further. Okay. So with that, the patent drafting procedure started. We have different forms: Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 26, Form 5, and Form 18. I believe my senior colleague might have given you some exposure to this, so we will not go into too much of depth of this. And again, who can file the patent? So it can be either the inventor or the organization, or you can, hire a patent attorney who, on your behalf, will file it. For that, you need Form 26. Generally, the power of attorney is given to the patent attorney for filing on your behalf. And of course, always there is a question on the timeline of the patent process. So it's also well charted. Like, you start with conceptualizing the innovation or the invention, followed by filing the patent application. You can either file a provisional patent application or a complete patent application, and then afterwards you get it published, and then if there are any oppositions, you are rebutted to that, and then it goes for an examination. If FER is issued, first examination report, then within certain time duration you have to again answer those queries. Otherwise, the patent gets abandoned, the application. If you do that, then again it goes through a rigorous rechecks by the examiner, and then finally, if everything is well, you get a patent granted. So these are actually the original documents which are available in the patent websites for our patent. So just wanted to show you how the form looks like. So these are all field forms which are available. Form 1 is basically the elementary form which tells you are applying for a grant of a patent, and it has all the details about the agency or the institute which is filing, the inventors, what is the the scope of patent and things like that. And then you have Form 2, which is a detailed specification. So here is where you describe your innovation or invention in some sort of a engineering framework. So what is that? There are some 18 pages here. So I've just shown 2 pages, first and the last. And then form 3 is about the statement of undertaking. Like somebody has to take responsibility, liabilities. I mean, if there's something problem, then who is responsible? Who is to be held responsible? All those things are defined in form 3. Then this is form 26. It's applicable only when you hire a patent attorney to file on your behalf. So then you have to give, this form 26 on a stamp paper. This is for IIT Madras. A similar thing was done for CSIR also for giving the power of attorney to the patent attorney for filing the patent. And also this is now the form 5, which tells about the declaration of the inventorship. Who is the inventor? I mean, there are organizations who are filing the patent, but actually who has done the work? So the inventor's details are captured in form 5. Form 13 is something like, suppose you have done some error, or there is a change during the filing process, you want to update those changes in the patent office. So then that is done using form 30. So for example, here the address was changed. Initially we had given a residential address. A feedback came from a parent institute that no, it should be the institute address. So my professor's address was changed from his residential address to IIT Madras. For both of us, it was changed from our respective residential address to CSIR and Nail's address. Even at some stage, we thought that the title which we had initially given in our application was too generic in nature. So there was an observation from the patent attorney and he suggested some changes. That is also under form 30, it was changed. So it is not that once you file a patent, it is all gone. There is always a scope of change. There are frameworks which you can, or there are instruments which you can use to do those modifications. Of course, Form 18 is the request for examination. So it can be either given after a few months or within 18 months of filing the patent. And Form 8 is basically about the inventor, the claim regarding the mention of inventors. So when the patent is granted, they should mention who are the inventors. For that also, even though you would have declared the inventorship in the previous forms, this is also one of the forms that is required in the document. So once you do all that, after some times the office of patent, they will publish the details. So here you can see the details about the patent application as well as who are the inventors, which are the institutes that are involved in this filing process, and they give the abstract. So this is published in journal. And finally, after some times, the observation from the patent officer comes, the first examination report. Right now, we are the responses have been filed, and we are just waiting for the patent office to respond back. So either they accept it and grant the patent, or is it that there are some observations or there are some objections, so we need to take care of it. So if you actually go to the Indian Patent Office, you can actually see all these documents available. You will see a page like this where if you enter the patent number, you will get all the details what have been submitted, form 1, form 2, form 3, form. And so if you want to know actually how a patent application looks, you can always go through this website. It's an open domain matter, nothing is hidden over there, and you can see how people have drafted their patents. I'm not showing you form 2, which is the actual patent specification. So you can go through that. Just randomly search a patent in your field, take that number, Indian patent, put it in the search of Indian Patent Office. It will give you this entire detail. When you click on View Documents tab, you will get all the documents that have been submitted. So that will give you more insight into the documentation part of it. So at this junction, we talked about the our research studies and all, our Eureka movement, and then the patent journey. Now the concluding part is on patent in the Indian context. So we are talking about patent. So it's a very small portion. I won't take much time. I think already we have overshot the time. So just to give you an overview, a bird's eye view of what is happening in IP in India. There was a very good compilation by NASCOM. So I have picked up few slides which are relevant for India. So if you see globally, 70% of the patent filed are from Asia. Okay. Again, whether you like it or not, China is leading when you talk about the Asian patent space. Okay. But we are not bad. Fifth here, but nothing to worry. This is where we need to you give a more in-depth look. Emerging technologies patent share is 73% in 2022. The P stands for provisional patents. And if you see the timeline from 2010 to 22 P, it's growing. So emerging technology is something which you need to keep and watch on. Now, if you talk about the patents filed in India, okay, so total around 584,000. Out of that, the technology patents were 266. In that, there is a bifurcation: telecommunication, semiconductor, and nanotechnologies, other technologies, and emerging technologies. Of course, somebody adds up these four verticals, they will say that the number is exceeding 266. Because I myself had done that, I had a doubt. So it was something like 350 plus. The reason for that is when this graph was made, they had given key terms. So many of these patents are not mutually exclusive. They are overlap between different domains. We are talking about interdisciplinary patent contents. So then if you look at the emerging technologies, for this institute, it is very, useful because when we talk about the emerging technologies, we are talking about artificial intelligence, artificial neural network, NLPs, computer vision. Blockchains are something which is also coming up. Patent matching, cloud, big data. You have courses in this also. Cyberspace security, IoT, electric and hybrid. So these are some of the things which you should just have in your mind. So when you are choosing some areas which is being offered in this college, you just keep a watch on these certain technologies. And if you see IoT and AI, almost they are leading. If you put both of them together, most of the patents are falling under this two categories itself. Communication, computer science, and medical equipments are also not very far away. Here, there's a bifurcation given for different, distribution of how the patents are distributed, and also whether it is an individual inventor, whether it is a firm, or whether it's an educational or research institute. So, in that term also, this report gives a very good, statistics about what is actually happening in terms of the leading emerging technologies. And if you see the patent space, as expected, the MNCs or the companies will be, filling up the gaps. But if you see the most right-hand side column, that is something which will inspire, because that is comprising of all the educational institute, and it is not just the IITs or IIScs. You can also see Jain University, SRN, Hindustan. So I think there is a space vacant there. So probably in the next report, I think we would request maybe the R&D director would like the logo of East Point Group also to appear somewhere there, and gradually it goes and maybe at the top. Okay, so this is some motivation which I thought I should share with you all. I see a lot of females here, madams and misses. So it's something which we need to do something about it. If you see the numbers, it's the ownership or the inventorship of women in India is not very bright. Of course, these are statistics. How we can improve it, the stand which we take, that will be. So this is how it looks when it talks about the share of women inventors in India. It is gradually declining when you talk about a share of women as an inventor or a filer of PCT application. It's all seeing a reduction in trend. Of course, India has been trying to improve on the patent filing process. So there are a lot of efforts that people are trying to put. The government is trying to put, like digitizing the entire process, so you don't have to run physically from one office to other to submit the documents, and even the reviews are being communicated online. So to some extent we are trying, but still we have challenges in patenting. If you can see over here, the patent, they have discussed the residential patent applications and the time that is taken. And unfortunately, India, it is something like 50 months from your starting of the patent to your final submission. It's something like of their order of 4 years or 5 years, maybe something of that order. So something like this are worrying part about filing it. Even there are issues which have been brought out in terms of the competence of the examiner of the patent. So these are something which are actually still existing in our system, which retard the process and also the attractiveness for somebody to apply for patent. So this company they had a negotiation. I mean, this discussion with all the stakeholders like academia or industry, and try to find out what are the loopholes or what are the aspects which were actually retarding this entire patent process. So if you look at the academia's challenge, there are four things listed: uncertainty in the time and cost overrun. That is, the time which is taken. Sometimes it even has gone to 10 to 12 years. Okay. And again, as I mentioned, the IIT model where they hire the attending, it has an additional cost burden on the institute. So those are something which we talk in terms of cost turnover or the time turnover. The filing process, even though it looks very simple in this presentation, but we took something like 8 months to undergo this whole process. So it is not so simple as we see it. We are only seeing the rosy picture at present, not the the cons which are there. The lack of recognition of patent is another thing. We are still in the mindset of publication and in SCI journals. So again, that is something which needs to be changed. And also the software patentability. Softwares are something which are still thought of as they cannot be patented because they may fall under copyright framework. But still, there are some provisions which have been recently coming up under which they can be copyrighted or they can be patented. So there are some best practices that the academia has tried to put in place, which probably will be useful for the top management at this stage. So like creation of an IP cell. So that will actually instead of burdening the faculty or the students, the IP cell can to some extent offload this responsibility. They may interface between the patent office and the inventor and try to do something so that your encouragement for filing a patent or a copyright or a trademark becomes more lucrative. Creation of the IPR through various programs and workshops. Today's event, the previous event is all in that direction of how to induce some sort of awareness about these aspects. Even if 1% or 0.5% also it has gone in your heart, it will serve the purpose. So that is what is the effort we are trying to make with your college management to uh, encourage you to think at least. Engagement with the licensing partners and investors as well as the industry collaboration. Finally, you should know that finally the patent has to see the light of the day. So unless it becomes a tangible thing which can be used by the end user, it is of no use. So instead of thinking about these aspects at the end, from the beginning itself, when you are taking some actions to encourage IP, intellectual property protection in your institute, should also start engaging with the industries. So that at the beginning itself, many of these problem definitions can come from the industry. They may have a lot of the strong companies, MPs, they do have a lot of unsolved the where to actually address them. So if you engage with not just the small companies which are around our campuses, you can always get some problem which can research, a PhD, a patent, and a product. So such things happen. These are two case studies. One in IT, so it's for telling the IC and SR unit they have established, and on those lines, what we just saw in the previous slide, they have tried to address, and we also got a lot of help while we were doing the patenting process, Madras. And if you see the impact was like they were able to increase same thing. I constitution, you know they could, scrutinize the applications very carefully so that the summary comes out of the entire study. So the academia has some steps probably on these lines. Something can be initiated. Probably it is up to top level management to take a call on this, but there are steps taken in the academia. So it's not something which what I am telling or what the presentation telling is hypothetical. There are systems in place and their performances are also seen in terms of the IP portfolio growth in the respective organizations. So basically, the road ahead is raise the IP awareness that will drive your look at least, and we are all putting our efforts and putting my effort to come from my organization, giving a talk. You all have left your works and you're sitting here. But forcefully, or by your own, that is not known. See, the population has decreased. But still, there is one manager, so that is a relief for me. I'm looking at that. And which may be, who knows, he may become the next startup. You never know. And then the partnership with the stakeholders. When we say stakeholder, it's again a very big term. So you have industry, you have research organization, you have government entities with which you can, join hands with, and you can take this entire, movement forward. So with this, I think I just have few thoughts because I think we are standing between you and your last. I won't take much time here. So the job of research to patent are rare, but that is possible. Even though you may find that academic is about the papers in paper, it is possible others because if you see we had considered that the students forgot about it. I would be standing we underwent this journey and we would not even have file anything. No knowledge gain is wasted. As well as IIT Madras and East Point Group of Institutes, and of course all of you, because without audience there would not be any lecture. So I'm really thankful that you have been patiently hearing to my cries, and maybe an hour or so. So with that, I thank all of you. If you want to reach me, you can just note down. It is my email ID, office landline, and my WhatsApp number. So with that, I thank you all for your patience and listening to our story that we had to share today. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your immense knowledge on IPR. Now it's time for the question and answer session. If any queries among the audience can be put forward.
If there are two interpretations, if you don't have any questions, then either you have understood everything or everything has gone out of your head. So I myself am confused whether it is the first one, I should take it in a positive way or negative way. Yes.
Sir, you are talking about the wings, correct? How the eagle will be so high it will fly?
It will use a different mechanism. See, different insects or different these birds or they use different principles, physical principles. For example, if you say eagle, it is gliding. So there won't be a flapping, won't be there at that high altitude. It will just keep on gliding, and then if you see the trajectory, it's not gliding straight. It will be gliding about a circular path. Unlike that, if you see a say a dragonfly or a mosquito, they use the unsteady aerodynamics physics. So wherein it is not. I mean, for example, I was talking about the shape or the corrugations that you will see in a dragonfly's wing, or even if you observe the mosquito wings, it's a it's like a flat plate. There is no aerofoil. Generally, in engineering, we talk about the aerofoil shape and things like that. But if you see those things, they are using unsteady aerodynamics. So what happens is the unsteadiness, they will use that to keep them airborne. It won't be the conventional aerodynamics. That's why if you look at one of the articles in Nature, if you try to apply the basic principles of aerodynamics, uh, hummingbird would never fly if you try to do. So that is where the differences in the working principles, they play a big role.
I now request Dr. Manipuri ma'am, HOD, Department of CSE, to give the momentum to our chief guest.
Now it's time to part of this workshop. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all present here and helping us making this event a grand success. Thank you one and all.
Record the one of life full. Are you